Hey guys, welcome to OG Interviews. I'm Christiana Alaire.
Hey, mi gente, I'm Moon, and this is OG Interviews. Joining me is a very talented singer. She has performed at the CMA Fest and competed on American Idol Season 20. This country music star is talking to the moon. Christiana Alaire, much love. I appreciate your time. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
How did you know you wanted to be a singer, and what motivated you to take those first steps?
So when I was very young, probably 3 or 4 years old, I was pretty much the backseat rock star. Any of my favorite songs would come on and the volume would go all the way up and my volume would go all the way up and I would just start singing as loud as I could. So my parents always knew I liked to sing, but they didn't know that I was wanting to take that very seriously. But my sister was doing theater and musical theater and things like that. So they thought it would be fun to get me involved in that as well. So I started doing musical theater and really started to enjoy the performance aspect of it and being in front of a live audience and all of that. And then weirdly enough, my brother plays hockey, and I was just talking to one of the people at a hockey tournament that ran that tournament, and they, heard me say that I want to be a singer, and I was maybe 7 years old at this point. And he said, "Oh, great. Do you know the national anthem?" And I said, "Yeah, I know the national anthem." He said, "Awesome. How about you sing it tomorrow at the championship game?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome." Ran back to my dad and I'm like, "Dad, I don't know the national anthem and I need to learn it by tomorrow." I'm like 7 years old, I only know half the words to it. So we stayed up all night and I learned the national anthem, just memorized it over and over again, sang it for my parents, and then performed it at the championship game the next day. After that and the feedback I got, I just was propelled forward to, continue doing it over and over again. So gaining my confidence in front of people and singing, just cover songs at first, just to start gaining, that stage presence. And then when I was about 12 years old, I started songwriting. So kind of meshing the two things together. But it's kind of a weird story because I got into performing via hockey, but that's just kind of how it happened.
So you said you were 7 years old when you took that first stage. Is that correct? That's what I
Probably
heard.
sometime around 6 or 7. Yeah, somewhere in that realm where I was able to talk and memorize things, but wasn't that great of a singer. I just knew I wanted to perform and, have a personality in front of people.
I mean, what was that feeling like at such a young age to be on that stage in front of people singing? I mean, I couldn't do that as an adult.
It definitely was nerve-wracking. And I hit a little like hiccup in the middle of the performance. And so every time I watch that video back, like I laugh at that point because I know I was shaking so bad, and just trying to remember all the words and going really slow to make sure I got all the lines right and everything. And it was nice though, because the rink was mainly full of people that I knew, people that I had been longtime family friends or my actual family, or, just teammates and team members and things like that. So it was familiar faces for me to look at and it wasn't too overwhelming. But I definitely remember, being really nervous to just make sure that I nailed that performance and did it justice.
What do you find more challenging, writing the song or performing your song or a song?
I would say the harder part would probably be performing, because writing is almost therapeutic. It's kind of like a way that musicians can express their feelings and get all of our thoughts out. And it just kind of flows out of me in a way for songwriting. Whereas performance, there's a lot of small variables that you have to worry about, making sure that the entire performance comes together as a whole with all those different puzzle pieces. So I would say the harder part would probably be to perform the songs, especially because you want to do them justice, with all the things that you've put into it in the songwriting process. You want to make sure that all of that rings true and that the audience is receiving that well. And, there's tons of different variables that go into it. And not to say that songwriting is simple, because it can be extremely complex as well. But I would say songwriting is a little bit more of a natural thing, I would say, just to kind of sit down and flow out maybe like a poem and then put some, melodies to it that I'm hearing in my head. But I'd probably say I like to perform better because that would be, as much as I like to have my therapeutic moments where I get all my thoughts out, I love the adrenaline rush that comes with the performance and, all of the lights and the noise and the music and all of the extra things. It's just that environment that, gets me super excited to, continue to do it.
On the subject of songwriting, what does a song have to be perfect for you, whether it's an original or a collaborative?
The word perfect for songs is kind of, objective, but I think that what makes a song perfect for me in my realm would be that the message aligns with what my message is as a human being and as a storyteller. In my music, it's really important that everything that I am putting out and performing and releasing and touching and singing, all of those things, it really is important that I share real perspective that, I believe in and that I 100% align myself with, because I feel like my audience gets to know me as a human being through my songs. And so I really like to even cover songs. I like to perform songs that I think align with my life, my real life, and also just the things that I would stand for, the things that I would want to say. When I'm writing my original music, I really focus on making sure that it's something I would say and something I would do or, go through. A lot of times I'm writing about my actual real life. So it is, recounting real experiences that I've been through. But sometimes, I use that songwriter's perspective to kind of, flip an experience that I've either heard about or someone, has told me or I've maybe watched or something like that, and, turn it into something that, seems like it came from me, like it's first person, but it's just, my way of representing that story.
So I imagine that that picking songs for your debut album or the song that's going to introduce you to the world is a difficult task. And I think maybe you touched on it right now, saying what songs are going to represent you and what are you going to say. But is there any other process that you do to determine what songs are going to be that introduction to the public and to the world?
Yes, and a lot of that has to do with style too. I don't want to necessarily be known as someone who sings only love songs or only sad ballads and things like that. I have a little bit of variety in the style choices that I use. So I think it is important not just in what the song is saying, but how you're performing the song and also what the style is calling for, in the music, because I want people to listen to my music and say, okay, I kind of have a gist of, what realm she's in.
Mhm.
And then they can listen to my other stuff. And I have some variety, but it's still going to be pretty consistent with what, I would call my music or how I would carry my voice.
I was going to touch on that a little later, but go ahead and describe to us what is your style of music.
So I grew up on Southern soul is what I like to call it. But I call my music Soultry music. So
Mhm.
it's kind of a blend of, rootsy country music with a little bit of old soul. My parents listened to a lot of Motown music, and I sang a lot of Motown music growing up and listened to a lot of blues and soul music, but also lived in South Georgia. So I was getting a lot of influences of just, like old country and that kind of thing in Western country. And so I kind of just made it my own little blend there. But I like to sing songs that feel real. And so if my voice can, naturally glide on it and sing, something that fits in, that just feels like that same vibe, I guess that same energy emotionally, that's usually something I'll lean towards.